If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and also check out all the social media and affiliate links in the description. Check out the Norton Secure VPN affiliate link below if you want to help secure your private information like your passwords, bank details, and your credit card numbers on your PC, Mac, or mobile device. Hey guys, it's Oluvids, and today I'm going to be talking about the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross ending. Originally, I was going to try to explain everything that leads up to the final update, but that is just way too much information, and when I tried to record it, it just ended up a jumbled mess. So I'm just going to go to the final update and tell you exactly what happens there and my interpretations and all that stuff. The update starts off with the Master of Masters, and he's talking to Lushu, and pretty much he's telling him the real purpose of this entire Keyblade society that he's created. As you know, there's a bunch of different unions, which are basically like different factions of this society, and each one has a union leader. Pretty much the purpose of him raising those union leaders is so that he can lock darkness inside them. So, as you know, darkness is kind of like a physical entity of the concept of darkness, and right now it's trying to spread, and Master of Masters is trying to seal those guys in there so that they don't spread too much. He wanted those union leaders to be vessels for those darknesses, because if they have a body, then they can be killed. Because darkness can't be killed while it's formless. While it isn't possessing someone like it did with Ventus, then you can't fight it. You won't really do anything. Your Keyblade is just gonna phase through it. So the best case scenario, the plan was to basically just let them go inside the union leaders' hearts, and hopefully the union leaders will have strong enough hearts to just kill them while they're inside their own body. But if not, then of course someone else is gonna have to finish the job and kill the possessed Keyblade wielder. So yeah, at first Lushu was kind of just like, he's a bit opposed to this. He's like, too many people are being sacrificed. But I mean, from what we're seeing here, the Master of Masters is just trying to take down darkness at any cost. He doesn't really care about trying to do it in the best way where nobody gets hurt. He doesn't care. He'll just do whatever he has to do to kill darkness. He's definitely not a big fan of darkness. He said that many of his comrades and his friends were killed by darkness when he was younger and all of that, so he's not having it anymore. And he said it's not going to be some heroic tale. He's just doing what he can to kill the darkness. After he finishes telling Lushu all that stuff, Lushu then leaves to continue his role, and he decides to, start the Keyblade War and set everything into motion. Next, we go over to Brain, Elrena, Laurium, and Ven. As we saw in the previous update, they basically got sent over to the real world from the Data Daybreak Town. Then, once they get over there, Brain decides to send Elrena, Laurium, and Ventus over to the future. So he puts them in the real lifeboats and basically sends them off and says, alright, well, I don't know when or where you're gonna appear, but hopefully you'll be safe from this, destruction that is Daybreak Town. Hopefully you can find your sister there and all of that. So yeah, you guys stay safe, sends him out there. And Brain basically intends to stay behind in Daybreak Town, and he wants to try to find a way to, try to either stop the calamity, stop this whole world from being destroyed, or try to stop darkness from at least corrupting the data version at least. Basically, he decided to change the plan and decides to try to bring the player, Ephemera, and Skuld into the real world as well, and he wants to send them off, keep everyone else safe while he stays behind. However, he is then approached by Lushu, and Lushu basically tells him that, the whole lifeboat thing, it might not work as he's intending. There's a set of rules basically with traveling forward with these concepts and all that, with the lifeboat. Basically, you need a medium, which is kind of like an item that relates to you or something like that, like Maleficent's cloak and stuff like that, like how she came back. And you also need to have someone who remembers you waiting at the destination. Brain says that he knows that, but considering that the world is ending in like a couple of minutes, he had no choice but to just send them off, So it might have some crazy side effects that we'll see later on. Lushu explains some more things about sleeping worlds, and he explains that the data world is actually meant to be a cage for the darkness. And he says that normally when the world falls into darkness, everyone in there, all its inhabitants fall asleep and they go into like this dormant state. But the same isn't, the same doesn't apply to the datascape, and so I have no idea what's going to happen to everyone in there, does that mean they're never going to get out, or we don't know. Brain, of course, says he's willing to put his life on the line to find out a way to get them out. He's really trying to save his friends and save everyone. Right after Lushu compliments Brain on his intelligence, he says that, it's a shame that your life will end here. And he walks towards him, and the screen kind of just cuts to black, so we don't know what's happening yet. Next, it cuts back over to the data world, and it shows Ephemera, the player, and Skuld. And they're pretty much just hoping that everyone got out okay. They don't know what's going on in the outside world. And that's when they're approached by darkness, or should I say 4 darknesses. They basically want Ephemera to open up a path to the other data worlds so they can expand and spread and become, larger in their numbers. And of course Ephemera refuses, because he's not going to obviously willingly open up a gate to let darkness spread, so he says no, and they then threaten to kill Player and Scold, and Ephemera still refuses. He says that, he makes up a plan to at least get the Player out in the lifeboat, while him and Skull stay behind to, I guess, fight darkness. However, things don't go as Ephemera planned, because the Player comes up with his own plan. He basically decides to pretend to be possessed by one of the darkness guys, and he starts fighting Ephemera and Skull, which forces Ephemera to send him out into a gate along with the other darknesses. Ephemera thinks he screwed up because, he opened up the gate after all, and he thinks that they're going to be spreading. However, this is all part of the Player's plan. Basically, they seal them in that little place that Ephemera sent them to. He eventually reveals that he wasn't actually possessed, and he, seals them in that place, and he decides to keep darkness into the data world, and, he makes sure that they don't get out. Yeah, he actually was able to somehow outsmart the darkness. I guess they couldn't sense that he wasn't actually possessed. But, yeah, Player outsmarts them, and then they're absorbed into this weird light, and I'll get back to what that is later. But the game cuts back over to Ephemera and Skull, and of course, Ephemera is sad that his friend apparently got taken over by darkness, and that he's gonna have to leave his friend behind, and, he planned on all of them escaping, but yeah, it doesn't look like his friend is gonna be going out. So he takes Skull, and he goes out into the lifeboats, and they try to travel back into the real world. And so, yeah, they make it there, but Brain is not waiting for them there, So we have no idea what happened to Brain. He's gone. He's supposed to be waiting there, but he's not there. And once they get out of there, they go outside, and they see that, yeah, Daybreak Town is getting destroyed. And, Skull talks about how it takes so much time to build things, but it could take just a second to destroy everything. And, yeah, because, like, everything that the Masters built up is just getting destroyed by the darkness and all that stuff. Anyway, they go back inside, and they hop back into the lifeboats to go head out into the future, and hopefully they'll be able to salvage, what's happening to Daybreak Town. There is no way to save everyone, because, as Brain said, it's going to be a huge time crunch. They don't have a lot of time. They can't save every single dandelion in there. So at least the Union leaders and the Union leaders and 1 dandelion, can get out, and they can try to fix everything later. Eventually, we cut back over to the Master of Masters, but this time he's talking to Darkness. Darkness is basically trying to figure out what Master of Masters is planning. He's like, you gotta know your enemy's plans in order to, make up your own plan. So he's like, what are you planning? And Master of Masters kind of tells him what's going on. Master of Masters pretty much is saying that, yeah, we can't really take out Darkness as things are right now. We can't just go in and kill all of them. They're spreading way too fast, and, it's not like they could just run away to a different world, because Darkness is pretty much going to go to every single world you could think of, and we've seen that in Kingdom Hearts. Every single world you go to, Heartless can reach there, and you gotta fight them and all of that. There's never been a world where it just is completely fine and safe, and there's just no Heartless, and it can't be attacked. So Master of Masters is basically trying to escape that, and he says that the difference between humans and other beings is our belief that after death that there's something after that. And he basically starts talking about different concepts and things like imagination, and he basically says that using your imagination, apparently, if you hold on to it and grasp onto that, it can become reality. You can create a new world with your imagination. We already know about the world of fiction, and that is unreality and Quadratum. Basically, he's trying to go there because he says apparently it's just going to be completely blank slate there. You'll be safe from all those different concepts and all that. And yeah, that is basically his final end goal, is to get there. And I don't know if he plans on bringing everyone else there, but he at least is trying to go there himself. When he's describing this place, he uses a Japanese asterisk to represent it, so he doesn't flat out say Quadratum or Unreality or Verum Rex. He just uses that symbol. So if you're seeing this symbol around, then that's why, because that represents Unreality. So then we cut back over to where the player is, and if you remember, he got sucked into this weird light, and he wakes up in this weird, place that's just, it just looks like full of light and all of that. He sees people floating around. He's like, what's going on? Where am I? And Chirithi's basically like, yeah, everyone's going dormant right now. Of course, we already know this. Chirithis are connected to their Keyblade wielders. And, of course, if a Keyblade wielder falls to darkness, Chirithi returns with like a nightmare Chirithi. If they die, then they're both gonna die. If the Keyblade wielder goes to sleep, in that dormant state, Charities basically try to protect them. They kind of form into something else to protect their hearts while they're dormant. And so we can see the Charity basically takes the Keyblade wielder's heart, puts it in that little pouch that they hold. All of them are holding that, and they transform into the Dream Eaters that we see in Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3. Like Meow Wow and Kamari Bat, all those guys. Yeah, pretty much turns out that the Dream Eaters that we're, playing around with, playing mini games with, and Sora bounces on, those are actually a fusion of the Charity and the Keyblade wielder. Now, a lot of people will say that it's just the Charity, but that doesn't really make sense considering that their heart is in the Charity, when they transform, so it's like kind of like a fusion. The Keyblade wielder is at least in there, Not exactly that they're just one being now, but the Keyblade wielder is still there. I don't know why people are saying that the, Dandelion is not there, but anyway. So then the Charity tells the player that he actually has a choice, He doesn't have to go to sleep. If he chooses to, not go to sleep, then he'll dissolve into a new heart. And that's when the player somehow sees a little flash forward to, the next life he's going to lead into if he chooses not to sleep. And he decides, yeah, I'm going to dissolve into a new heart. I'll start a new journey. Bye-bye, Charity. My life as we know it ends here, pretty much. And so that little preview that I saw of the next life he's going to be into, like reincarnate into, is actually Xehanort. And this is the game where we find out that the player that you're playing as throughout the entire Union Cross is the reason for Xehanort's existence. The player reincarnates into Xehanort. And this explains why in Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, Xehanort is, he has memories of the stuff that happens in Union Cross. Xehanort's like... I actually covered this in my Dark Road video. But Xehanort, keeps dreaming about it. He's like, why do I see these memories that, obviously I don't know what these are. I've never seen these. I've never been there before. I'm seeing people I don't know and all of that. Apparently these are like my friends or something. I don't know what's going on, but, So yeah, that's the explanation for that. I remember back then I didn't know. I'm like, why does Xehanort, what connection does he have to the Keyblade War and the Dandelions and Union Cross? That's the connection, because Xehanort was there in his past life, at least. You're Xehanort, I'm Xehanort, everyone's Xehanort, Namora Norted everyone. And Xehanort had an afro and was black in his past life, so hey. Anyway, after we see that little preview, we also see Xehanort's, I guess, mother. We see this lady holding baby Xehanort. She gives Xehanort away to this person, this like cloaked person. He looks like an old man, but like we have no idea. We don't really know who this woman is. We just see her giving away baby Xehanort. She looks pretty sad while she's doing it. She doesn't look like Xehanort in the slightest. Xehanort, as you know, has dark skin. He has silver hair. She has none of that, so I mean, maybe the father has dark skin and silver hair. We don't know. Xehanort has no resemblance to her, so we don't know if like he's adopted or something, or if she just found him on the street one day. But after that, it cuts over to where everyone in the lifeboat ends up. So we see Laurium and Elrena, they end up in Enchanted Dominion. Ventus ends up in Keyblade Graveyard. Ephemera actually ends up in Daybreak Town. He's like the only one that ends up where he actually wanted to be. He ends up in the ruins at Daybreak Town, and that's where he basically begins to start his work on rebuilding the whole Keyblade Society. With his Master Defender and Book of Prophecies, we'll see how that goes in a couple of minutes. So then we see where Brain goes, and Brain actually goes over to, this crazy looking city. He's like, I don't know where I am, what is this place? You see this person walk up with Brain's hat. He's like, here you go, this is yours. And this person is like, yeah, you were predestined to come here. We've been waiting for you, actually. We've been expecting you. Brain obviously has no idea what's going on. He's like, I don't know where I am. I don't know when I am. I don't know what's going on. I've never seen these people before, or this place. So he's kind of confused. He's like, alright, don't worry. I'll tell headquarters that you're here. Don't worry. I'll explain it all soon. And the person's like, yeah, my name's Sigurd. I'm going to tell you everything that's going on. But yeah, you're the only person that made it here. No one else made it. None of the other union leaders made it here. So yeah, Brain's like, yeah, like my friends are supposed to be here too. Like, are they here? But they didn't make it there. And so Brain goes over to like this fountain thing. And that's when we see that on the fountain, it's actually Ephemera. And Sigurd explains that, yeah, Ephemera basically founded Scala at Kylum, and he rebuilt the place into that. And he is the first Keyblade Master in the society as we know it. Yeah, he pretty much single-handedly saved the entire Keyblade legacy. He was able to escape the wreckage and the destruction of Daybreak Town, and then he was able to somehow rebuild the whole population. I don't know if there was like some survivors left in there, but he was able to rebuild the population, rebuild the entire place. turn it into something much greater than Daybreak Town even was. He's like low-key kind of like the king of that place, you know. He's like, there's a guy on Twitter named King Ephemera, somehow he called it. But yeah, Ephemera is pretty much the king of Scala ad Kylam, you know. He started it all, and he's the first of the bloodline that is gonna be led from there. When Brain sees that, he's like, yo, I'm proud of my best friend, you know. This guy really saved like the legacy. He really rebuilt everything himself. And we actually don't see where Skuld goes, so we know where everyone else except for Skuld goes. And I mean, I'm guessing we're gonna see that later in Dark Road, but we don't know yet. Yeah, and there is also one other thing we see that is going to cause a bit of confusion. We actually see, you know, Lushu carrying the, you know, his black box around with his Master's Keyblade and all of that. And then he says, you know, of course, the obvious may my heart be my guiding key and all that. He takes off his hood, and we see Brain's face. Now, before the translation came out, I thought that meant that Brain was Lushu all along. But no, apparently, Lushu, you know, took Brain on to be his first vessel. Because if you remember from Kingdom Hearts 3, Lushu basically started, you know, body snatching and, you know, possessing other people's bodies so that he could survive for a long time, you know, because obviously he's going to be way too old and he's not going to be able to live until the present day like he actually did if he didn't switch bodies. We're not fully sure exactly, of course, what happened when he approached Brain, you know. It cuts off before we see anything more, so I feel like there's a bit more to that scene that we don't know. There's actually a lot of parts of this thing that's a bit vague and up to interpretation. That pretty much is the ending of this whole Union Cross thing. Lots of revelations. Dream Eaters are, you know, the Dandelions and their Chirithes. Ephemera is the founder of Scala ad Kylam. The player is Xehanort. Bunch of huge revelations. Now I'm gonna go over to like my thoughts on it and any theories I have. So one of the theories I kind of have about Quadratum, and I obviously I don't know if this is gonna be correct, but you know, the Master is talking about how you can create worlds. Now in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, Sora's dreams are able to create, you know, worlds that Riku travels through, you know. So I'm thinking, what if Quadratum is made from the dreams of the Dandelions that are trapped in the Data world, you know? Because I doubt, like, because he said, you know, you can use your imagination to create a world, but like, I don't know. I doubt that Master's created the entire world himself, you know. I feel like his plan was to, you know, lock everyone into the Data realm so that they can, you know, be in a dormant state, and then maybe they'll all together dream that world. It kind of reminds me of the Faith from Final Fantasy X, where they like created a Xanarkin from their dreams. I feel like that's what's happening, but obviously I don't know if that's true. It could end up not being that. That's my theory right now. For some reason, a bunch of people say that the Dream Eaters aren't the Dandelions, but like, you literally see the Chirithes take their heart and put it in the pouch and then turn into Dream Eaters. I mean, to me, I mean, that looks like that, yeah, the Chirithes did transform into Dream Eaters, but the Keyblade wielders are inside the Chirithes. You know, they're inside the Dream Eaters. Like, I kind of see it kind of like how they have the Nightmare armor for Sora in Dream Drop Distance, where, yeah, the Nightmare armor is, you know, the Dream Eater or whatever, and Sora's inside there. That does, you know, it doesn't make it any less Sora, you know. Like, sure, Sora wasn't the one controlling it, but Sora's there. On my, like, little meme video about the Dream Eaters, just a ton of people were, you know, saying that that's not the case, but like, you could clearly see it. I don't even know why. There's just a whole confusion about that. There's also another cool detail about where Elrena, Lauriam, and Ventus, you know, woke up in. Lauriam, when he wakes up in, you know, Enchanted Dominion, he wakes up in a field of flowers. So that's, where they wake up is kind of like a hint towards their attributes and all that. So he wakes up in the field of petals and flowers and all of that. Elrena wakes up in a very stormy area. There's lots of lightning and thunder raging around. Ventus wakes up in Keyblade Graveyard, but it's really windy. You know, obviously Ventus is like he's related to wind. Like, I believe his name is like Wind or something like that in Latin. And one of the things I was wondering about is that, like, the whole concept of the medium and the proper way to travel into the future with the lifeboat and all that. It seems like, I guess, if you don't have the correct stuff, you're gonna wake up with no memory. It's not like they died or anything when they went to the future, like they disappeared or something. All we know is that somewhere down the line, all these guys lost their memories of what's happening in Key. So maybe that's the side effect of not doing it properly. Whereas someone like Brain, he remembers everything, but he got sent into the future. He had his medium with the hat, and somehow they have people that remember him. So maybe Ephemera is like an old man, but he's still alive. Or maybe it's because Lushu exists in that timeline and he remembers him. Brain is able to come back and with his memories intact. Maleficent comes back with her memories intact because people remember her and she had that cloak. Another thing I find interesting is that like the whole Maleficent reviving scene, you know, when like the little bird brought her cloak and then the fairies like remembered her and they're like, oh no, if we remember her she's gonna come back. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was like a reference to like the movie she came from or something. I didn't know that was a Kingdom Hearts concept. Like I didn't really think about that scene, but like they kind of hinted towards the whole time travel thing back from Kingdom Hearts 2. Well, not time travel, but the whole reforming yourself, coming back to life and all that, using the medium and the memories. I really thought that was just like a Disney thing, but it turns out, yeah, that comes from the Kingdom Hearts Key era. We also see Kairi in the lifeboat back in Melody of Memory, and she does lose her memories, so I guess she didn't have some sort of medium. So I guess that's the side effect. If you don't have a medium and someone who remembers you, then you're just going to lose your memories, and you have to pretty much start out as a blank slate. Oh yeah, and there was also some debates on who Ericus' ancestor is. Some people are saying that it's Ephemera now because Ephemera got the Master Defender, but I still think that it's Brain because Brain comes back to Scala ad Kylum. So I would assume that means that he could get his Keyblade back and start a family and whatever and eventually lead down to Ericus. I can't really see much of a connection to Ephemera and Ericus other than the fact that their name starts with E, but like, I think that's a coincidence. I think sometimes in Kingdom Hearts you gotta accept that some things are just, you know, coincidences. You know, obviously Brain looks like Ericus, that's the thing. Brain has more of a resemblance to Ericus. You know, Ephemera looks nothing like Ericus. His family, you know, obviously things change, but like using like anime and games and stuff like that, when someone's related to someone else, regardless of how far the timeline is, they look kind of similar to them. So that's why I think that it makes more sense that Brain is Ericus' descendant. And we know that when you die, your Keyblade doesn't like disappear, because you can see in Kingdom Hearts 3 that they put the Master Defender in Ericus' grave and it's still, you know, there. So we know that they could hold the Keyblade there for Brain when he comes back. The whole concept that darkness used to have a physical form, that like darkness was an entity, kind of reminds me of Marvel Comics, where like conceptual things can have physical forms, like something like Eternity, how that's like an entity in the Marvel universe, kind of like how, you know, like that. So, you know, in Kingdom Hearts now we just know as darkness is just a force of nature, but back then it was an entity. It just split up into different parts and spread out throughout the whole universe and all of that. Some people are saying that like the whole New Heart thing is kind of like Sora and Ventus, how Ventus joined into Sora's heart. I don't believe that's the case, because, you know, then there would be some influence from the player. It wouldn't just be Xehanort there. Obviously the player probably wouldn't let Xehanort turn evil, you know, like, so I don't think it's just like, oh, the player's heart is with Xehanort. It's definitely looking more like the player reincarnated into Xehanort. That's why Xehanort has the memories of Union Cross and all of that. I'm thinking that Kingdom Hearts Union Cross kind of gives a bit more to Recoded now. Like, it gives more insight on, not insight, but like more meaning to Dream Drop Distance. But I think it also gives more meaning to Kingdom Hearts Recoded, because Recoded is the whole thing that introduced the whole concept of a datascape and the whole fact that you can create worlds from the words written inside of a book. It did introduce that concept first, which is what they use heavily for Union Cross. That's pretty much what the entire game is. But yeah, the ending of this thing definitely gives relevance a lot to some of the other Kingdom Hearts games. Raises up a lot more mysteries and all of that, and yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.